We got three that's not showing in the picture of there.
Only takes 10 for a quorum, so
Yeah.
you got it.
Wherever you watch TV, somebody had to learn a lot, taught us a lot about voting. A lot of us could vote twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folks, we'll go ahead and get started with the agenda tonight. Welcome everybody to the first meeting of the year. I've got several commissioners here in the audience. They're up on my screen. They're in my upper left corner. At this stage, I'll call the meeting to order and I'll call the roll. Just please let me know if you're on. And I've got one person in. Wait, hold on just one second. I got one person to try to get in. Okay. Commissioner Dacus?
Here.
Commissioner Farley?
Here.
Commissioner German?
Here.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Here.
Commissioner Jimmy Jordan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett?
Here.
Commissioner Lillard?
Here.
Commissioner Logan?
Here.
Commissioner Norton?
Okay, you got it all.
Here.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Here.
Commissioner Perkins?
Here.
Commissioner Powers?
Here.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Did that early with alphabet.
You're muted, Dale. How's that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Reeves is here. Commissioner
Yes.
Steve Reeves?
Here.
Commissioner Rice? Commissioner Seals? Commissioner Robert Seals?
Here.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Here.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Here.
I've got 18 present, 1 absent. This time, if you would join us in the invocation given by Commissioner Goodrow, and then we'll go recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Goodrow?
Father, be with each and every one of us tonight as we deal with the county's business. We ask that you lead us today and every day forward to make sound and prudent decisions and continue to rest your healing and guiding hands on us. We ask these and all things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
of
of
the
the
United
United
States
States of America,
to
to the republic for which it stands, one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
liberty and
justice
for all.
Liberty for all.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak any non-agenda items? Next item on agenda tonight is approval of minutes. Those are in your packet and have been reviewed. Oh, excuse me, one second, gentlemen. There is a form, a motion I put in the packet that I would like I need to have somebody make and second and vote on to comply with the governor's order on electronic meetings.
I make some motion, Farley.
All right, Commissioner Farley
Second, Goodrow.
and second Commissioner Goodrow. 1 second, please. All right, roll call, Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Fields, Commissioner Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, the motion passes 18 in favor, none against. Next item on the agenda tonight are public hearings. We have the first one on the agenda is a rezoning.
Mayor Taylor, Commissioner Powers here. We need approval of minutes.
Thank you very much.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, Commissioner Powers made that motion. Do we hear a second to that?
Dale Reeves, seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Reeves. All right, are there any additions or corrections? All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
yes,
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Sills,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yeah.
Motion passes 18 in favor, none against. We're to public hearings, and the first one on the agenda tonight is rezoning of Pelger from B2 to R1. I'm going to turn my computer around, let Mr. Fittner have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, good evening. This is a simple downzoning application by Michael Pelger of Dayton, Ohio. He's a FedEx pilot. Purchased 1.16 acres on the south side of Mosby Drive, not too far east of Macon Cemetery Road. It was the site, well, a spot zoning, frankly, about 35 years ago, September of 1983. Someone who wished to put in a store that didn't last very long. He has bought it and wishes to put really a trailer, a travel trailer actually on it, I think is what he intends as a dwelling, which we can do if it's hooked up to utilities, if the council no longer. For a residence, when he is in Memphis for some layover duration in his work as a FedEx pilot. When this application came in, he was surprised to learn that it was zoned business too. That was done by Ms. Sykes-Wood when she was with us a number of years ago, when we put all of the zoning in the GIS database. And so he is asked to rezone it back to residential. Every once in a while, every 2 or 3 years, we get one of these applications with an opportunity to revert back to residential, an old spot zoning of a B2 or B3 character, or sometimes B1. And this is what this is. Planning Commission's recommendation is favorable, as is the staff. You'll note there's not much staff report to be written on it. It's pretty straightforward. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them. But that's the application.
Mayor, this is Commissioner Sills, Robert Sills. I move we approve.
The mayor stepped out of the room for just a moment, Mr. Field.
Okay.
Mr. Field, just motion to approve the rezoning. Mayor.
Farley second,
Okay, gentlemen. Give me 1 second. Let me get that down. We had some audio problems in the courtroom. So Commissioner Sills made the motion.
Yes, Robert Sills.
And who made the second, please?
Farley,
Farley.
Our Constitution is the foundation of this country.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Mayor Taylor, this is Commissioner Powers. Was this actually an open, a public hearing at this point? Was there anybody that's to speak for or against it?
It will be. I was just trying to make sure we had any questions here on the floor. There
Not a
will
problem.
be.
Thank you.
There's no one in the audience, but we will go through the motions.
I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. 1 second. We'll consider ourselves in public hearing, and I'll be right back to see if there's anybody there.
Those like John Brennan, Schiff, and others are all against domestic terrorists because they are all trying to take away.
Know what we're voting on? Okay, we're voting on the rezoning from B2 to R1. That's it. That's the first thing, rezoning. Robert Sills made the motion. Ben Farley made the second. As soon as I get this done, I'm gonna call Ray Garcia and see if I can get some of this done. I'll take this a minute or so for
They can about very similar to
Commissioners, there is no one in the audience to speak for or against it. At this time, we'll have a roll call vote. If there's no further comments or questions.
fascists, bigots.
Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yeah.
Commissioner Power,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves.
Yes.
I see Commissioner Rice has joined us. Commissioner Rice, can you vote? I'll come back to Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yeah.
Commissioner Rice,
That exist.
Yes.
okay. Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. I'm going to turn this back to Mr. Pittner, and while he's talking, I will be trying to get some audio problems worked out in the courtroom.
There are alternative platforms. I've got one on
Okay, there are two
.com. It's a place where people can come.
zoning resolutions relative to solar farm regulations. The first one would increase setbacks and
But most importantly, we need to urge President Biden.
from both dwellings, I think from 500 to 1,000 feet of dwellings, and would make it a minimum of 500 feet on all county roads, not just the major roads. The Planning Commission has indicated, I'm not sure if by a formal vote, but they have indicated in the last meeting that they did not wish to pursue
I got two
that
knobs.
amendment.
Difference which one I turn.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Pittner?
The Planning Commission has indicated in their last meeting, I cannot recall whether it was by a specific motion or not, because I haven't written those minutes yet. But they have indicated in their last meeting, which I believe was in December, that they did not wish to pursue that amendment. That amendment is a carryover from where it originally was brought before the commission, I believe in September. And they indicated in December, they did not wish to pursue it. So their recommendation, I would say, is no longer favorable.
I'll make a motion that we turn down this resolution.
Kroger, again, Bed Bath and Beyond, Kohl's, and Kroger, those are just a few. When you support
Second.
I think the motion has to be does the motion have to be in a positive statement?
No, this will have to, a motion, you can have a motion to turn down because
Okay.
you have to take action on something coming from the Planning Commission, either positive or negative, either one.
Okay.
And you can have a motion to turn it down. Before we go to the motion, because this also will have to have a public hearing. Give me just a second. I'll ask and see if there's anybody in the courtroom who would like it, and we'll consider ourselves in public hearing for 2 seconds. Commissioners, there's no one in the courtroom for the public hearing. So at this time, is there any, yes, Commissioner Goodrow?
Was this the same resolution that I requested to table and send back to the Development Committee?
Yes, it was one of two of them, Mayor. This was one, and the subsequent one up there is the other. In September, I believe.
Commissioner Goodrow, which time frame are you talking about? Are you talking about late last fall, or are you talking about at the last Development Committee meeting? Commissioner Goodrow? I'm afraid he froze up.
Mayor Taylor, Commissioner Powers here.
Yes, sir.
I believe it was our recommendation out of development 2 weeks ago that both of these were tabled for a 6-month period, that was our recommendation. So therefore, I make a motion that we table both this and the subsequent amendment that Mr. Pittner is going to present for the 6-month period, so the Development Committee has the time, as we had discussed 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I can accept that. All right, then let me get that, and so I'll make that. Commissioner Powers for tabling.
Mr. Chairman.
Do I need it? I do need a second.
Mr.
before we move
Chairman.
further.
Terry Leggett, I'll second it, but I have a question.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And then a week ago, and when I lied and said they were gonna go after Mike Lindell, well, they did. They hired hit groups.
Mr. Chairman. I was hearing that noise.
Mr. Chairman,
I didn't know what.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Norton.
Yes,
Could
sir.
I ask whoever has a television in the background playing to please turn the TV down or off? It's making it hard for the commissioners to hear what's going on.
I agree, and sometimes I can identify who it is. This time I haven't been able to. Commissioner Leggett.
Okay. Will this serve to just table anything involving solar farms for 6 months, which would move it to July, the next July meeting of the Development Committee? Is that correct?
This will take care of any new projects. We have 2 that have already started the projects that we can't undo the rights or whatnot. But any new applications, I'm asking Mr. Pittner, that would be the effect of this.
We do not anticipate bringing any further amendments in this period either.
Whoa. Commissioner Leggett, I think I misspoke. What the motion was by Commissioner Powers was to delay these resolutions. It wasn't a moratorium on new projects. I think that's what you're getting at. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. That was my understanding. What the Development Committee did was a 6-month moratorium on anything involving solar farms until at least July.
You are
And
correct.
that's what I'll be happy to second that.
Okay.
Commissioner Powers here.
Where's my agenda?
That will come up under the Development Committee. It's not part of the resolution.
This is true. Let me straighten out maybe some confusion. What went through the Development Committee was a recommendation to turn down the first one, the resolution to increase solar setbacks, just turn it down. And the second one was to postpone for 1 month the resolution to augment solar regulations so Mr. Pittner could bring some more clarification. And then at the same time, there was a motion for a moratorium for 6 months on all new project. The reason that these are somewhat different is because some of these regulations may take effect on the current ones if the commission decides to approve them.
Mayor,
Commissioner Farley?
the first one we're talking about, we're only talking about the first one. It was voted just to
Wait,
take
hold on
notes.
a second. Before we vote on anything, Commissioner Powers, since I've got a motion on the table that's been made by you to table and Commissioner Leggett seconded, would you like to withdraw that under that information?
That will be fine. I withdraw my motion with the clarification you've made.
Okay, great. And Commissioner Leggett, you're good with that?
I totally agree. Yes, sir.
Thank
We'll
you.
go ahead and deal with these restrictions on the existing solar farms, and then I guess development will bring up the moratorium.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir. And the first thing we're going to do is we have to turn this one down. The development committee did not take an action on it. It has to be approved or turned down. And so the only thing we can do is turn the first resolution down. Correct?
All right. Commissioner Farley, did you want to make that motion on that one?
I made that motion earlier when you were out of the room, and I believe somebody seconded it.
Okay.
Join the meeting.
And do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
Who was that? Commissioner?
Terry Legg, I'll be happy to second.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions? All right, this is to deny
Disapprove.
or disapprove. All right, Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, if you vote in favor of the motion, you're voting to deny it. So Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves? 1 second, Commissioner Reeves is muted.
Yes. Dale Reeves.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Sills?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yes.
Commissioners, anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Motion's denied. Oh, the rezoning is denied. Commissioner,
The result, the amendment.
the amendment is denied. 1 second. We got 2 more commissioners trying to get back in. And Ms. Pittner, did you go over that second one yet?
I think I told the county commission that the development committee recommended that they table that. I believe, I'm not sure where we cut away to the southern,
Okay.
but I believe I did that. If I didn't, you're free to.
All right, commissioners, we're on, the next item on the agenda is 8.3, resolution to augment solar regulations. Mr. Pittner's relayed what the development committee recommended, which was a delay of,
Well, I think they recommended first, I think they recommended that it be tabled for a month, but that they can continue tabling it. This
This
was
is correct.
essentially what it was until we're ready to adequately inform them about aspects of it. They wanted a map about how one provision in there would affect where these facilities could locate relative to an access requirement. They wanted mapping data about that, and it's going to take us a little while to put that together, largely because of TVA line.
all right, gentlemen, did you hear that explanation? And does anybody wish to make a motion? Well, let me second. This is a rezoning. First off, if there's any questions, commissioners, before I go to a public hearing.
Commissioner Goodrow here.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Somehow I got knocked off Zoom, and I've missed, I guess, the first resolution. Did I?
The first resolution was on the zone, the solar was turned down.
Okay.
And then the second one, which we are on now, a recommendation from the development committee was to delay it 1 month for Mr. Pittner to bring back more information.
Okay.
And
all right. Could you let?
Yeah, I see you're trying to get in. Hold on a second. And where we are now, if no one has any particular questions, I was going to make sure we don't have anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this for the public hearing portion. Okay, consider ourselves in a public hearing. Let me check the audience. Commissioners, there's no one in the audience to speak on this. So at this stage, is there a motion to be made?
I make a motion that we'll table it to the February meeting. And gentlemen, understand at February meeting, we may table it again until we make sure we have all the information.
I second it, Commissioner Seals.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals, Commissioner Robert Sills,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion is adopted, 19 in favor, none against.
Mr. Chairman, this is Goodrow.
Commissioner, yes, sir.
Could you record me as a yes vote for Commissioner Farley's motion on the setback resolution?
I can. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda tonight is elections and appointments. In your package, you have election of notary publics. Those have been reviewed by the clerk and I'm open for a motion on the table.
Make some motion.
Commissioner Farley, do you hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Walker.
Commissioner Bill Walker. All those, roll call vote, Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Sills,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Next item on the agenda tonight is the election of the county attorney. By private act, every January, we elect a county attorney. I believe the private act was provided in your packet for the rules or whatnot. At this time, a nomination is open on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, Oglesby nominates Ricky Rosser.
Norton seconds.
Any further nominations?
I make a motion he be elected by acclamation.
Ma-
Do I hear a second to that?
Norton second.
Okay. The roll call vote to elect him by acclamation. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
No.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Sills,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion is adopted, 18 in favor, 1 against. Commissioner Rosser has been elected. Attorney Rosser has been elected. Next item on the agenda tonight is 911 board vacancy and appointments. There are 2 open slots on the 911 board. And I submitted 2 names, Commissioner Norton and Mr. Josh Dowdy, to fill those terms. Those are recommended to the safety committee. Comes to you with a recommendation of approval. And those are laid in front of you. This would be a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Abstain.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 18 in favor, 1 abstention. The next item on the agenda tonight is a delinquent tax attorney. The county trustee, Ms. Barbara Parker, has made a recommendation to hire the law firm of, Matthews, Ray, and Neal. And they are the current firm that is being worked with. She also has recommended that their compensation will remain at 10%, which is the maximum allowed by law. That commission will be on addition to anything that is owed, so it does not hurt the county any, and it all relates back to whatever he collects. And I agree with that as required. So that name is in front of you as a recommendation for the delinquent tax attorney. Entertain a motion to approve.
Commissioner Powers, so moved.
Okay. Do we hear a second?
Dale Reeves, second.
All right. Another roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. The next item on the agenda tonight is financial reports. They're in your packet. Please go with your appropriate official if you have any questions. The next thing is county mayor's report. Just a couple of things I need to bring to your attention and something to remind you on. Since we only meet once a month to get everybody, I've got a COVID update that I want to just bring up to date sort of where we are on that issue. Currently, as I hope that all of you are aware, the vaccine is being administered in the county. If you or someone you know wishes to be on the list, there is a phone number and a website to get on the list. The way that is handled is once your name is on the list, you're given a category of sorts depending on age, occupation, disabilities, a couple other choices. And then just prior to the time when you are eligible to get it, the health department, Fayette County Health Department will call. They're administering this at Fayette Ware High School. They're using the back portion of the drive-through, moving it from the health department, which is across Highway 59 to Fayette Ware is solved a lot of traffic problems and potential wrecks. So I want to thank the school system for all they've done as far as helping us. And that has made it much smoother. I also want to thank the EMA and the Sheriff's Department for everything they've done. The Sheriff's Department's gone above and beyond on traffic control and making sure that the people are safe. And the EMA have staffed this with volunteers for the last couple of weeks, if not longer, a couple of weeks every day. And then they were working very closely with the health department when they needed other staffing. So they both entities have gone beyond the norm. And I want to thank them for everything they've done. We're currently giving 75 years and older vaccine. As soon as that population in the health department's mind has been reached, or at least as many as they feel like they can get, they will lower that age. They're talking about lowering it to 70 plus. The federal government has already recommended going to 65 plus. But a lot of these recommendations, particularly on the state side, are having to do with the supply. And if we had more supply, there'd be more people being vaccinated. I cannot tell you how many to date have been vaccinated, but it should be somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 folks. And they are moving the vaccine as quickly as they can and get it. There have been days when there have been nobody's been vaccinated simply because there was no vaccine. But they are working through that as much as possible. If you get a question from a neighbor in another county, can they come to Fayette County and get their shot? The answer is no. You got to be a Fayette County resident to come to Fayette County to get the shot. One of the main reasons is that East County is working through the state plan, and depending on the number of people in that plan in that county, each county going through it a little bit differently. So everybody's required to stay in their county so that it actually works. Otherwise, the county that's moving the quickest would start getting folks from other counties showing up for shots, and will sort of defeat the purpose. So I just want to let you know that's the way they're working. The last thing I want to bring to your attention, I think most of everybody that I've talked with knows about it, but I want to make sure everybody's heard it, is your ethics disclosure deadline is January 31st. You can do it online, you can fax it in, you can mail it in. I've helped a couple of commissioners get it to the proper place. So if you got any questions, just get with me later after the meeting or tomorrow, and we can get that taken care of for you. All right. Next item on agenda tonight is Sheriff's Office, and I talked to Sheriff Riles or Deputy Garcia that they didn't have anything. Is anybody from the school system online? I don't see anybody. Public Works, Mr. Dowdy is in the audience. Does Mr. Dowdy have anything he needs to give the commissioners?
Mayor, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. All right, Mr. Pittner, anything else you need to talk to him about? Okay. Next item on the agenda is Development Committee. Commissioner Farley.
Thank you, sir. The Development Committee met on January 11th. Present was Reeves, Powers, Mr. Walker, Seals, and myself. The first thing on the agenda was the Public Works road list for 2021. We discussed it, looked over it. Motion made by Powers, second by Walker to recommend approval. Motion carried unanimously. I bring it to the board as a motion from the Development Committee.
Commissioner Powers, second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Farley, second by Commissioner Powers. It's a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yeah.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Commissioner Farley, anything else?
The second thing was a motion by Mr. Seals and a second by Mr. Powers to establish a 6-month moratorium on any new solar applications. The vote was passed unanimously that we do accept the moratorium. I bring that to the commission as a motion from the Development Committee.
Second.
Okay. I've got Commissioner Farley. Who made the second, please?
I did, Logan.
Commissioner Logan? Okay. Any other discussion? All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus?
Yes.
Commissioner Farley?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan? Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner Leggett?
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard?
Yes.
Commissioner Logan?
Yes.
Commissioner Norton?
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves?
Yes.
Commissioner Rice?
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals?
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker?
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins?
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Commissioner Farley, anything else?
That's all we had, sir. We covered everything else in the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Next item on agenda tonight is Health and Welfare Committee. Commissioner Reeves.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We met on January 11th. Commissioners present were Leggett, Perkins, German, Seals, Goodrow, and myself. Director Miller give us his report on the ambulance service. It's projected that we're going to have an increase in transports of about 8%. We were out of ambulances 28 times in the last month, but only 6 times when we're getting help from other counties when that happens. Next thing we did is we set March 19th for spring cleanup. And so I make a motion that we pass that resolution.
All right, motions are made. Do you hear a second?
Second, Farley.
Commissioner Farley. All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus.
Yes.
Commissioner Farley.
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow.
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett.
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard.
Yes.
Commissioner Logan.
Yes.
Commissioner Norton.
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves.
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves.
Yes.
Commissioner Rice.
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals.
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals.
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker.
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to change a vote? Not seeing any. 19, motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
Mr. Chairman, we did have some budget amendments. We'll take it up in budget. One was the solid waste fund, and then also capital projects where we're bringing the money in, putting it in the budget for the 2 ambulances we're going to get from the grant. So that's all we have.
Okay. Commissioner Powers, did you have a question?
You're muted, Kevin.
Sorry about that. I was looking at the calendar. Point of clarification, March the 19th is actually a Friday. Is the proclamation for Friday the 19th or Saturday the 20th?
Well,
yes.
Exactly. Thank you. That'll work.
Mr. Chairman, Goodrow.
Sure, Goodrow, yes.
Do you have any update on the property acquisition for the shelter on Yum Yum Road?
Commissioner, not Commissioner, Mr. I do not have anything from Mr. Rosser yet. I think they were trying to get some documents from the title company. They got a list of stuff and they're supplying it to them. We do not have an answer back from them whether they are satisfied with the information. Mr. Rosser, am I right on that? I'm coming to help.
We have submitted a title opinion and a request for title insurance for the county. And they've submitted to us a long list of things that have to be fixed before this can happen. Discovered a $266,000 judgment against the property that had been recorded. And we are trying to resolve that because we certainly are not going to pay $266,000 judgment for the seller. Also, I don't know how much y'all want me to go in there. There's a whole list of things wrong. One of the things, he was supposed to build a building on the property the first 2 years and he didn't. And it's been, what, 10 years now, Mayor?
Closer to 30.
Well, I didn't want to exaggerate. Anyway, there's a lot of other things that has to be resolved, and we've got to make the title company comfortable. And the main thing I've got to find out is about this big judgment. It was granted against in Louisiana, and then it was brought up and registered in Hardeman County and recorded here and in Hardeman County.
Put a lien on it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's a judgment lien. The sellers were sued and they got a judgment against them for $266,000, and that judgment has been recorded in this county.
And and just give you a little bit more detail on that, at least fill in some detail. The owners thinks it's all been cleared up, that the proper paperwork's been filed, but I don't think all of it's been filed in Fayette County. And since the original judgment, like Mr. Ross was saying, was in Hardeman County, we're trying to see what's been filed where before we go much further. But that was part of what was revealed when it went to ask for the title insurance.
Okay.
We did not do a title search in Hardeman County because the real property's in Fayette County. The judgment's been recorded in Fayette County, so we had notice of it. The owner, I believe, says that the judgment has been satisfied. I went and had copies made of everything in the file in Hardeman County, and there's no release. So I guess the next thing I'm going to have to do is go over there and do a title search to see if there's been a release, if that's what the county commission wants me to do.
I think we need to do whatever it takes if we've got our eye on this property to move forward on it.
And that was the direction and the authorization from the commission when we started moving on this property. So we will move that direction. So thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Goodrow, do you get answered what you need?
Yeah, I'm satisfied right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda tonight, Commissioner Reeves, anything else?
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Next item on the agenda tonight's Personnel Committee. Commissioner Lillard.
Personnel Committee. Personnel Committee. They call it on us.
Hey, are you going to run into
Yes, sir. I'll tell you what, I'll take care of it since you're not at a mic, if you don't mind, Commissioner. What you've got in front of you from the Personnel Committee was an extension of COVID benefits to our employees. At the end of last year, the federal regulations mandate on giving time off for either testing for COVID or having the disease lapsed. Starting January 1, the county was eligible to either follow exactly what the federal folks did and adopt their procedures and all the regulations that went with it, do nothing, take away all the benefits, or do something in the middle. What we've recommended is that we continue with the 80 hours that somebody, if somebody has the disease, we will cover their time off. If they've already exhausted the 80 hours, then they're out of that 80 and they'll be on their own time or their own sick time. We're also covering some part-time people. We don't have many, but a couple of them. And if they have to be working for us more than 3 months, and whatever their average weekly time, that is how much they could take off that week. So if it's a day they work for us and they get COVID, that's all we would cover them for. This will go to the end of March. And this has been recommended by our healthcare provider just as a stopgap with the vaccine coming on, and hopefully there's a little bit of lessening in the county from it in the last couple of weeks, the last week or so for sure, that hopefully by that time we will be where we don't have to worry about this, and either we can either extend it for a little while or do away with it. But that is a recommendation that went through my recommendation to the personnel, and personnel recommended to the full commission.
Move it be approved, Mr. Chairman. Oglesby.
Okay.
I would second that.
All right, Commissioner Oglesby, seconded by Commissioner Watkins. Did I hear? All right, Commissioner Watkins. All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
okay, Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves. 1 second. Commissioner Reeves is muted. Commissioner Reeves?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yeah, I unmuted and I'm back.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. Commissioner T. Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals, Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Next item on the agenda tonight is Education Committee. Commissioner
We
Davis?
did not meet, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Next item is Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee. Commissioner Rice.
Mr. Chairman, we met on January the 12th with all members present, Commissioners Norton, Perkins, Leggett, Seals, Goodrow, and Rice. We had a short agenda, reviewed the November and December activity reports from the Sheriff's Department, voted to recommend approval of a budget request from Ed Pulliam, General Sessions Court Clerk. That will come up in the Budget Committee report in a few minutes. And we voted to recommend approval of the nominees for the 911 board, and that has already been dealt with earlier on the agenda tonight. That was all of our business for the 12th of January.
Thank you. Next item on agenda tonight's Budget Committee, Commissioner German.
Okay, we met
on January the 12th, that date needs to be changed in the minutes, Mayor. It's got January 21st, but it was the 12th.
And
Commissioners that were present were Steve Reeves, Logan, Oglesby, Ray Seals, Farley, Dacus, Rice, and then we need to add Lillard to that too, Mayor. He
Yes,
was
sir.
he was in attendance. I'm not going to read the minutes. By the time we go through the agenda tonight, we'll cover everything that's was in our minutes. So our first budget amendment is 6.2. This budget amendment places in-service training expenses in the correct lines in the budget. There's no change to the fund balance. It was approved by the budget committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Okay. Motion's made. There's a second.
Second.
Commissioner Logan seconds that motion. All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins, Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Okay, Motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
Okay, six. Somebody say something?
No, sir, I think it's all yours.
Okay, 6.3 budget amendment. The clerk and master has requested to move some funds from data processing supplies to maintenance and repairs. The amount's $526. There's no change to the fund balance. Approved by the budget committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Motion is made, seconded by Commissioner Oglesby. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Anybody wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Commissioner German,
All right, 6.4. Court Clerk Ed Pulliam has requested to move $1,200 from a reserve fund to purchase some computer equipment. Again, no change to the fund balance. It was approved by the Criminal Justice Public Safety and the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Rice seconds.
all right, motion's made, second Commissioner Rice. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
All right, 6.5. Solid Waste Fund 116. This amendment places the in-service training expenses to the correct line in their budget. No change to their fund balance. It was approved by Health and Welfare Committee and approved by the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second, Commissioner Seals.
All right, motion's made, second by Commissioner Seals. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
All right, 6.6, this is Capital Projects Fund 171. This budget amendment brings in the money from the CDBG grant to purchase the 2 new ambulances. There's no change to the fund balance. This was approved by the Health and Welfare and the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Reeves, second.
Okay. Motion's made, second by Commissioner Steve Reeves. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
All right, 6.7, this is the budget calendar the mayor has proposed for this year. This calendar is exactly the same as last year, except for the appropriate date changes. It was approved by the Budget Committee, and I make a motion, we approve it.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second, Farley.
Motion's made and seconded by Commissioner Farley. Roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Not hearing any, motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
Okay, 6.8, COVID pay leave policy. This amendment to our personnel policy extends some leave provisions for employees who may have contracted to COVID.
Commissioner,
This was
we passed that in personnel. I think we've already voted on that.
okay, good deal. Well, then we'll go to 6.9. And this is a credit card policy. And this is the policy that the mayor has recommended that deals with the newly acquired credit cards. And all this policy does is details who uses them, how to use them, and where to use them. And it was approved by the Budget Committee. I make a motion, we approve it.
Commissioner Powers, second.
All right, motion is made, second Commissioner Powers, roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Lillard,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to change their vote? Motion passes 19 in favor, none against.
Mayor, that's all I had unless you got any last minute amendments that's come up.
No, sir, nothing under budget. We do have a couple of new items under new business on the agenda, though. I need to go over with you.
Okay.
First thing is a fast track grants for MCP. MCP used to be Memphis Contract Packaging. Another company with the same initials bought them out the beginning of last year, and they've been doing a number of expansions in their properties around the Somerville area. The state of Tennessee has granted them some funds to help with those expansions. And they've asked if they could run these through the county. This would just be a pass-through, no debt to the county, no match or anything, just they've got to give it to a local agency to pass on to them. And that's what I'm asking the commission to do. I do need a motion to be allowed to do that.
I didn't hear what you were asking. Somebody was speaking.
State of Tennessee has issued a grant to a company called MCP, used to be Memphis Contract Packaging. And they need an entity locally that would pass through. And I would like to have it come through the county. There won't be any detriment to the county, no match. All we have to do, we bring in one check, we send a check out to the company. Just the way the state program is structured. And I'm asking for permission to move with that.
Make some motion.
Commissioner Powers, so moved.
Okay. Commissioner Powers, second Commissioner Farley. Again, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yeah.
Commissioner Leggett,
Yes.
Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yes.
Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Thank you very much for that. That'll help move that project along. The last thing on the agenda tonight is the fiscal strength and efficient government fiscal confirmation letter. Basically, this is something we have to do for not only our 3-star status, which helps us with our CDBG grant, but also the comptroller wants you to know sort of where we stand. I just need a motion to accept it and to move forward, and we'll enter it into the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Commissioner Reeves, Steve Reeves. Do you hear a second on that?
Oglesby,
Dale Reeves, second.
Okay, Commissioner Oglesby, second that. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Dacus,
Yes.
Commissioner Farley,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Leggett, Commissioner Leggett,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Lillard, Commissioner Lillard,
Yes.
Commissioner Logan,
Yes.
Commissioner Norton,
Yes.
Commissioner Oglesby,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Powers,
Yes.
Commissioner Dale Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve Reeves,
Yes.
Commissioner Rice,
Yes.
Commissioner Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Robert Seals,
Yes.
Commissioner Bill Walker,
Yeah.
Commissioner Larry Watkins.
Yeah.
Motion passes 19 in favor, none against. Commissioners, that's all I've got for you tonight. There's some information on the back part of the agenda for the sales tax and adequate facilities tax report. There's a holiday list for going forward this year. And also the county debt management policy is included so that you can have an idea. We always include that in January. So if there's any, if you have any problems looking up or want to know what we can and can't do, you have that in front of you. Any other business we need to take up?
Mr. Chairman, this Leggett,
Yes, sir.
will we be notified when the development committee is researching the thing about the solar farms?
Yes, sir. When they meet, I'll let everyone know. And then in all likely, well, I'll get with Commissioner Farley, but in all likelihood, we'll have a Zoom component to it. It may be totally by Zoom, but so that if you want to come in and watch it, you'll be able to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, if there's nothing else, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn. So
Commissioner Farley, all those in favor, please sign off.